has been kind of a crummy day out today. We are supposed to be getting a storm pretty soon and it's really windy out. The new horse is going to the vet tomorrow, so I did want to get him spruced up a little bit. Since he is still in quarantine, I waited until the very end of the day. It has been on the edge of a really big storm the entire day, but it hasn't snowed yet. The wind is pretty intense, so hopefully this guy will stand still for me to give him a really good grooming tonight. Typically this time of year there's already leaves on the trees, but it seems like we're having a little bit of a late start to spring. Hopefully it'll stay nice enough out for me to get this guy spruced up a little bit before it storms.
Hey buddy. Hey bud. What's up?
I still haven't figured out what I'm gonna call this guy. I've got a few things brewing and I'm just waiting for him to kind of show his personality a little bit more. He is really sweet and kind, but I do think he has a pretty big mischievous side that won't come out until he's a little bit more comfortable here. He has been loving his special mashes. I am pretty happy with the amount of hay he's eating, so I started feeding him with a net to kind of slow him down a little bit. It does look like he's starting to get a little bit bored in here and has started walking the fence a little bit. It was really nice to see. He did spend some time in the shelter. I did deworm this guy a few days ago, but I haven't seen any evidence of any in his manure. There are a lot of different parasites that you can't see with the naked eye, and the dewormer worked great to get all of the ticks that were stuck on him to fall off. It's still pretty windy, but I'm gonna get to grooming this guy so he's all clean for tomorrow. I just realized I forgot to bring a halter back with me, so I'm hoping this guy will just stand still while he eats his mash and let me handle him. I've been around him for over a week now, and I know that he is a generally sweet horse and doesn't react to very much. Since he's gotten here, he has lost a great deal of his winter coat. I think part of that is because the extra nutrition he's getting, and it has been a little bit warm on some days. He just has a little bit of fluffiness around his belly and on his legs left over. I have had a few questions about what color exactly he is, and technically he would be a flea bitten gray. It has nothing to do with him actually being bitten, but these little tiny spots look like tiny flea bites, so that is where this color gets its name from. He is being a super good boy for this. I think he just really loves his mash. I would not do this with a new horse that I got that was unhandled and I didn't spend a good deal of time observing beforehand. There are a few of my horses that I've had for quite a long time that wouldn't tolerate me doing this while they're eating. I am really happy how his top line is popping back up. These muscles along the top of his back are super important. I was a little bit worried when I watched him trot around that he would have trouble building up his top line, but it looks like proper nutrition is doing the trick. I did find a little bit of a scab on his girth area. I was worried that it was another little melanoma spot, but it was just a scab. He also has some crusties on his legs. He doesn't really need this extra feathering on his legs, so I might go ahead and clip him just to get all this gunk down and washed off for him. If I don't get this under control, there's a possibility that it could turn into something worse. He was probably just walking around in the spring melt and got a little bit of bacteria down there. These few little bites that he had on him are healing up really nicely. I have noticed that a bunch of the little tiny ticks that were on him are gone now, so that is awesome. I just hate those little things. That is about all of the winter hair I can get out of him pretty easily. I'm going to go ahead in with this pumice stone and just give him an extra little scrub. This will pull out a lot of the extra hair and it'll pull the dirt to the surface, so hopefully he'll look a little bit cleaner. He really isn't very thin, but he doesn't have a lot of padding over his ribs in this area. I am pretty confident that this area is going to get built up after he's been on a good feeding program for another week or two. He's got these little crusties all over his legs, and I'd really like to wash this and treat it sooner rather than later. He doesn't have to stand in mud or wet conditions, so it should get a little bit better on its own. He does have a few of really deep cuts on his back legs. He did not like that. They could definitely stand to be washed and disinfected as well. It pretty much looks like I'm not doing anything at all with this pumice stone. He looks pretty dirty still. The forecast is calling for a snow/rainstorm over the night, and it seems like it's really starting to blow in right now. The last couple of days I've been a little bit discouraged. My ankle doesn't feel great, and I would have really liked to be riding the horses by now. The weather has been really crummy and overcast, so that really isn't helping. At the end of the day, I really didn't have the energy to come out and groom this guy, but I'm really glad I made the time. With so many horses to take care of, sometimes it's nice just to slow it down and spend some time just hanging out with them and giving them a good grooming session. The more I look at this guy's legs, the more I really just want to clip all this hair off. I bought a fancy new pair of clippers to finish Nigel's horrible haircut, so they should work great for this guy too. Since I am not 100% sure if this guy still has lice lingering around, I am going to use a special brush for him. This one will get disinfected after I'm done using it, and I only use it on brand new horses that I think might be infested. When I first bought Nigel, he was completely covered in lice. I treated him several times and he was of course kept away from the other horses, but after about a month of him being home, all of the other horses had lice. I switched a few things up with my protocol, and this is one of them. I also try really hard not to handle these new horses when I have to go back to the other barn and hang out with my normal horses. That in general is just a good quarantine protocol to have. I haven't seen any actual lice on these guys, but I am not taking the chance of getting all of my other horses infested this time of year. I haven't actually picked out this guy's hooves yet, so I'm going to go ahead and scoop out all the mud and see what they look like. Since I needed two hands for this, I am actually holding my phone in my mouth, so I didn't get a good view of his feet. They are pretty healthy, but they are a little bit flat.
You're all right.
He does have some thrush underneath, so it'll be a good one to show you guys how well this hoof stuff works. This does smell a little bit like burnt wood or like a forest fire, so some of the horses don't really like the smell. Since I don't have this guy haltered up, I am only going to pick out his front feet today. He was getting a little bit squirmy. This is kind of a lot to ask for a horse that I don't know, that hasn't been actually worked very much. He could easily just turn and walk away if he wanted to, but he's being pretty tolerant, even though I know he doesn't like me handling his foot while he's eating. He seems like the kind of horse, if you treat him fairly, he will be pretty kind to you. It is very unlikely that he was ever asked to do anything at Liberty on the guest ranch. The wind is starting to pick up again, so I'm just gonna put some detangler in his mane. This stuff smells really, really good, and he wanted to get a big old whiff of it before he let me put it in his hair. Typically, working on a guest ranch, these horses have a schedule that they really need to stay on, so getting pampered like this is not a typical occurrence. The clouds are definitely moving in a little bit thicker and more dark. As much as I'd like to spend a lot more time with this guy, I do have a few more chores to do at my actual house. I am running out of daylight, so I'm just gonna hurry up and finish grooming his mane and tail. The vet that he's going to see tomorrow is the one that I use for all my rehab horses, so she's seen some horses looking pretty gnarly when I first bring them to her. I have a feeling she is going to be super excited about me getting one in that doesn't need a lot of extensive work. Even though I wasn't able to get him as clean as I had hoped, he is starting to look like a completely different horse. Since he loves his mash so much and I've been making it for Frisco and Nigel, I think I'm going to continue to feed it to him until he's at a body condition I am happy with. His old owners were taking pretty good care of him, but I'm just going to fill in all of the gaps, and that should make a world of difference for this guy. With him being on the older side, it is harder for him to process nutrients, so he just needs a little bit of tweaking to his diet. He seems perfectly content munching away on his mash this evening. I have noticed that the one side of his face is looking more normal now, so I'm really interested to see what we find when the vet opens up his mouth. With this guy doing so well, it is not unrealistic to think that maybe I'll put a few rides on him next week. I do have a few smaller round skirt barrel saddles that I think would fit this guy really well. Arabians typically have a shorter back than most horses, but a few of my guys have pretty short little backs themselves. I shouldn't have any trouble finding one saddle in my collection that fits him perfectly. With the sun going down and this guy all spruced up, it looks like my work here is done for the evening. I know you guys are super excited to hear what I'm going to name this guy, but I haven't quite decided yet. Thank you so much for watching and stay tuned for the next video.